Hey guys, welcome back to the Spilling the Feed. This is part 2 from the previous one. I am your host, Abby Brooks, the Crowder FFA Vice President. We have Timmy and Dax and Meacham in the back. And today we're very excited to introduce our 2024-2025 Southeast Area Vice President, Titus Montgomery. So, what inspired you to become a Vice President?
So, looking back, and I kind of mentioned this in the episode before, so you guys will get to hear it here, but you definitely need to go back and check out episode 1, part 1. But I was inspired to run for state office in general from that first moment as an 8th grader where I wanted to be, I felt like a nobody and was treated like a somebody. So my objective through FFA was I'm going to get everything out of this organization that I can. And while I'm doing that, I want to leave a lasting impact and legacy that I made others feel like a celebrity. And that's kind of how if I want to be felt that way, what's the golden rule? What's the golden rule, Dax? You treat others the way you want to be treated. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's hit into our minds and drilled into our heads from day one is, you make others feel the way that you want to feel. And so I wanted to be treated like I was important, so I wanted to make others feel like they were important. So that's kind of what inspired me to be a state officer. And so, that's kind of why I ran.
Speaking of that whole idea about making others feel like they're celebrities and stuff, you mentioned that in your speech at state convention, I think.
Yes.
So how did you go about writing that speech?
So I loved competing in speeches in high school. Junior and senior year is when I really, truly got a grasp of how to build that good speech, that eventually state winning speech. But writing a speech for state office was entirely different because my normal process was I find this topic, I'm going to go be the head honcho expert on this topic as far as I can. But writing a speech relating to state office, like a campaign speech or a goodwill tour speaking part or a cult conference challenge that we give, I wasn't going out there and talking about this nitrogen fixing corn that I had read an article about, and now I'm the only person in Oklahoma that has these seeds from Peru, and it's like I wasn't in that situation anymore. It was I have to be an expert on myself. And so now it's an entirely different ballgame. So, I gave a speech at convention. And I talked about, my first speech my first campaign speech for Southeast Area Vice President. And I hate the word campaign. This goes out for all future state officer candidates and everything, It's not like it's not like you're a politician going out there and you're running a race and, hey, I'm going to show up and we're going to host we're going to sell some hot dogs and hot dogs are free. You guys come and get to know me. It's like, no, I'm going out here and I'm just making friends and making connections. And so that was something I always looked at state office was like, I'm not here you guys don't got to look at me. Don't even talk to me. I'm like, I just want to talk to you. I just want to get to know you. I want to make you feel like you're somebody because that's how I want to be felt and that's how I want to be treated. And so my first speech was, I really honed in on, this is my why, this is me. And then, my second kind of campaign speech when I ran for state president was kind of, that was kind of my, you guys are the reason I'm here. And you guys are the reason that years and years ago, this organization, the people within it, is why I am who I am today. And so kind of going about writing those speeches was it's a lot of self-reflection. Because like I said earlier, you can become the expert on talking about avian influenza or is it African swine fever? Is that what that's called? I guess, I don't know. Whatever the bad one is that came through OYE a couple years ago.
PED. That's what it's called, but I don't know what it stands for.
I'm not an expert when it comes to livestock diseases. So I'm just but anyone can go out there and become an expert on that. But the hardest part is becoming an expert on yourself and truly knowing, let's think back to that time. So a lot of the time with those state office speeches or speaking parts, there's a 30-page long Google Doc that at the very, very top is that speech. But the other 29 pages are, this is a different version of the speech. Well, here's a different story. Well, here's this timer. Here's something here's a quote that I found that I could maybe tie in. Oh man, okay, well, no, that doesn't apply. And so it's like you find all these things, but it always has to go back to being you. And it has to be real. That's something that I think, a lot of the time, you just got to be you, but you got to be real. Don't put on that facade. Don't put on that mask. The word mask and the word fake and the word real are both 4-lettered. Okay? But you have the choice between them. You have the choice between whether you're going to put on that mask and rip, or if you're going to rip off the veil. I got to write that down. That was good. I can use that. But no, that's kind of something that, I really had to do a lot of deep digging. And, that's kind of something is with state officers, you look at them, you go, oh, this is someone that's so, they're a rock star. They feel almost untouchable. They feel like they're so out of my reach. And I'm like, no, at one point in time, we sat there and did not know what we were going to do with our life. At one point in time, we sat there and went, oh, I don't think I can get elected. At one point in time, we sat there and straight up went, I'm not going to run because I don't think I can do it. And that goes for everybody that has that aspiration in life is like, yeah, you can. You can do it. But you got to take the first step forward and go after it. And so with writing those speeches, like you asked, it's a lot of sitting down, self-reflection, running through all these different experiences, running through those memories. Do I really want to get up there and talk about the time that I accidentally hit my horse with a hot shot and it threw me off? Do I want to tell that story? Well, yeah, that story's kind of inspiring because it's goofy that I made a mistake, but I got back up and I learned from my mistake. And so it's like, do we want to tell that story? Yeah, I do. But I got to find the right way to word it. I'm not just going to say, well, I did this and this. No, I did this and this happened because of this and this happened because of this and this is what I learned from that experience and why. So it takes a lot of self-reflection and a lot of sitting down and who am I and what do I learn from these experiences in life? So I hope that kind of answers your question. That was long-winded. I've learned I'm pretty good at giving long-winded answers, but that's kind of that. So
How would you describe your experience as a state officer?
My experience as a state officer, it was nothing short of a dream. And what I mean by that is everyone loves to go to sleep and have a great dream. And even in those dreams, there's some times where it gets a little crazy. The other day I had a dream and I had a pet armadillo. And his name was Jefferson. Don't ask me why this was my dream. Now, I will tell you, I would love to one day have a pet armadillo or possum. I love them things. But it's like I had a pet armadillo, and that whole dream was like about that. And it's a cool dream, an awesome dream. But at the end of the dream, I had to give away my pet armadillo. And I had to give him away. And I'm like, why the heck did I just have a dream about having a pet armadillo? But you look at that and you go, dreams are crazy and dreams are awesome. Dreams are attainable. But sometimes in the dreams, some things happen and it makes it a little bit hard. But you always recover and you always have a great time. And so that's kind of something with state office was the dream. There were times, and I said that in my state president speech, there were times where I felt lost. I'd be standing around FFA members and I'd look down at my jacket and go, are you supposed to be here? Are you really supposed to be here? Like, you are the Southeast Area Vice President. Are you supposed to be in that position? And that could be, that happens sometimes. That happened at Lead 360 once. I was at Lead 360. I was sitting at the back of the room and I'm listening to them talk and I'm watching all these FFA members and I'm like, I don't feel like I've earned this position sometimes. But I know I was put here for a reason.
I think a lot of people that do something extraordinary have that imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. It's something that I felt when I first became an ag teacher. It's like, should I really be here teaching children about the thing that I love so
Yeah.
much? It's when you do something extra or you do something that you have dreamed about, it's kind of, am I supposed to be here? It's kind of why you pinch yourself. You're like, am I dreaming?
Like I remember, you have to take it all. You have to take it all in, the good and the bad, because there are moments where, we are worn to a nubbin. We're the T word, tired, and I can say that now. We're tired, and it's like I have a full 14-hour day of running, gunning, jumping around. In 2 hours, I have to throw on a skunk onesie and run into a group of FFA members and start dancing. And I have not eaten yet. I am tired. I went to bed at 2 a.m. and woke up at 4. I have to, you know what I mean? I'm looking and I'm laying there in my bed. I'm going to use this alumni camp example as what I'm talking about. I'm laying there in my bed and I'm like, I don't want to get up. And then I start thinking and I go, oh, but you do. You want to get up. You want to go do it. You're tired and worn out. That doesn't matter. Because you want to know how I get my energy, and I'm still like this. I got my energy from the FFA members. Yeah, it was awesome to have the music playing, and it gets you hyped up, but it's like, dude, we're surfing, we're wiping out, and I'm like, this is awesome. You look around and you take it all in, and so that's why, like I say with state offices, I took it all in, because even the good moments, the moments where I was so worn out and I was so tired, those were the bad moments ended up becoming so great moments. And so that's kind of how state office was. It was, at times I felt lost, but it was when I felt lost that I felt home. And so I would chalk that up, state office, it's a dream. There are parts of dreams that you don't understand and you don't enjoy. But at the end of the day, you've loved it. And so that's kind of how I look at it. So, but yeah. So let me ask you guys this about, you guys are chapter officers, right? So what position are you?
Secretary.
Okay. Secretary stationed by the ear of corn.
Vice President.
Vice President.
Treasurer.
Okay. So Emma Washington and the plow. So as officers, there is great moments, but there's also some moments that are a little bit, you know what I mean? So have there ever been moments as officers, and I don't know if any of you guys this is your first year, your second year, but have there been moments where it's kind of like, ugh, why am I doing this? Like I could be, out with my friend. I could be in McAllister at the movie theater right now. Instead, I'm at the ag building working on this application. You know what I mean? Or like, have there been moments like that for you guys as officers or in FFA in general?
I'm not really sure, but
It could be like working with livestock. Like, I do not want to go out to the barn and brush that hog right now. You know what I mean? You ever get that kind of feeling?
On pin cleaning day and you're just laying in bed early, I have to clean like 15 pins,
Yeah.
all the time.
You get that feeling, but it's like, it's worth it in the end, isn't it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's more worth it in the end. That hard work, and that's what state office is. It's hard work, but it's so rewarding. So what about you guys?
I mean, I've had my ups and downs, but this whole thing is like, I love it. So I'm not really complaining about it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're just going to keep doing it and over. So
Yeah. It's kind of like, a great piece of advice that people are given, that I've been given is, if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's kind of how like state office and how FFA was for me is like, I loved it. Now, was it still a job? Yes. Did I still have to work? Yes. But I loved it and it was that much more rewarding. And so that's really, I agree with you on that. What about you?
Well, I haven't necessarily had any moments where I was like, oh, I could be doing something else. But I did have a really good up moment where I was like up here And that was last year when we had our banquet, because last year I was parliamentarian. I was taking place of my friend who went homeschool. So during the middle of the year, I applied to be an officer and I was parliamentarian. But I helped throughout the rest of the year, and then come banquet, I thought banquet was really fun. And that was kind of big for me because I had to speak in front of a lot of people that I knew, and the whole cafeteria was full. Mm-hmm. And I had to speak about a bunch of stuff, and I had to get up and do that. And that was kind of, it was work, but it was fun.
Yeah, I agree with you. So
I think it's a lot more rewarding when you put some work in. I mean, if you had a pig that you didn't even have to touch, you never had to clean its pen or anything, and you won grand champion with it, you probably wouldn't feel as good.
Yeah, you'd like don't feel like you actually won. You feel like you just showed, and yeah.
Yeah, but if you were the one in the barn, 24/7
every day, it's much more rewarding when you win.
Mm-hmm. I agree completely. So, yeah, that's kind of how state office was and how it was, and it was a job that I loved, and therefore I worked. But at the end of the day, it was the reward. It was the greatest experience. So, yeah.
What are some activities or events you're responsible of as an officer?
So, as an officer, this is kind of, you guys are going to get like kind of a little bit of a the backstage kind of way of looking at it. It's how I like to look at it. You get to know what happens backstage. So, as an officer, whenever you see us at alumni camp, or you see us on Goodwill Tour, or at Colt Conference, or state convention, we have different duties that are, we basically, there are some that are assigned, but then there are others where, and I'm going to, kind of wipe on my eye real quick, but there are others where we do this thing called drawing for chips. And so kind of as a state officer, I'll use alumni camp for an example, okay? There is only so many flag raising and lowering parts as a state officer at alumni camp. There's only so many. So even though we have 8 officers, only only 4 of us get to do it. Yeah, because is that 3? It's either 3 or 4. My brain doesn't work sometimes. But only about 3 or 4 of us get to do those parts. And so it's like, well, I want to do a flag part. Well, I want to do a flag part. And so what we would do is, let's say everybody raise their hand real quick. You know what I mean? Everybody's raising their hand. Okay, so all 4 of us want to do a part. Mr. Lucas would go, and he would get this little FFA tumbler, and it had these poker chips in it. And these poker chips had a number on them. And basically, it was a situation of, okay, I'm going to look. I grab one. Mine is, oh, man. Okay, mine's 2. Oh, what is his? Okay, I think he got a 4. Okay. Oh, she got a 6. Oh, man. Okay. And he's got 9 down there. Okay. And so what you would do is he would have someone that didn't have their hand raised draw a chip, and whoever was closest to that without going over, those were like, you know what I mean? That's kind of how it was set up. And so let's say there's 3 speaking parts, and the number is 8. Well, I have a 5, you have a 6, she has a 7, he had a 9. So you went over. So even though the number was 8, so you didn't get that speaking part. But so us 3 are now, that's kind of how that kind of worked, was we would kind of set that up. Or in other examples, I'll say like with the state fair, like Tulsa, or Oklahoma State Fair, I worked the sheep show at Tulsa, and then I also worked at the gear booth. Well, Aubrey and Cooper, they worked, I think Aubrey worked somewhere. She worked the cattle ring, maybe? I don't remember. She worked somewhere, and then Cooper worked the hog ring, if I remember right. Well, then they worked the night of, what is the Tulsa sale? What is that called?
That's Oklahoma.
Is it Night of Champions?
Is it Night of Champions or?
I thought that was Hawaii, but
I don't remember.
Something like that.
It's whatever it's called, like that. They work the Tulsa sale, and so it's kind of like we have different things. Or like for example, Green Hand in OCC State. I was the one that gave the introduction for the green hand contest. So if I remember, I think Kayla did the intro. Maybe Kayla. I don't know. I don't know who did the OCC intro. I wasn't there that morning. I came that afternoon. And so, but we have different things where, oh, I want to do this, or I'll do this, or hey, let me do this. And so it's like, I go work the sheep show. So I worked, like, for example, I had a speaking part at Alumni Camp. I did a flag part. We had Vespers, did all that. But then coming into the school year, I worked the sheep show at Tulsa. But then you guys didn't get to see me. But at the Oklahoma State Fair, I helped on the judging day of all of the indoor exhibits. So I talked earlier in the last episode about those agronomy exhibits that I did. I got to sit there and, I was very blessed junior and senior year to have been very, very successful with those because of the hard work that I put in. And so I actually got to help assist, like looking at and listening to those judges. It's kind of like sitting there and you're standing next to the judge at OIE and you get to ask him personal, hey, why did you pick that one over? I thought that one was, but you know what I mean? Like, imagine how awesome that'd be to see. Yeah. I thought that this was this, but you saw it this way. Oh, I see exactly what you're saying now. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of like that situation. Or, if you guys are in OCC or shooting sports or ag mech or livestock judging, it's like, well, here's the person that's running the contest. Well, why did you say that this pig should be over this pig? Why should 3 be the number 1 and number 1 should be 4? You see what I mean? And so got to do that and got to do a lot of different things where, at state convention, I had a opening ceremonies part and I did Sentinel and I did VP. I never did treasurer because those were the 2 parts that I drew for. And then some of my teammates drew for other parts. And so we kind of switch around, do different things. But that's kind of like the backstage kind of look at it is we all have different speaking parts. A lot of the time, though, we want to do that part. And so we kind of choose or throw our hat in the ring. And so there's only so many things that are really like assigned to us. So like when it comes to being like assigned or duties that we have as state officer of things that we do, we are at state convention, we will write a lot of our speaking parts. But then there are also some that we are like, all right, hey, you're going to introduce Farm Bureau. You guys will see that at stage. You know what I mean? We have those sponsors come out with the mock checks. There will be some. So I was given farm credit. Like, hey, Titus, we need you to introduce. Okay, that's fine. So I go out there and I'll introduce farm credit. Or I'll introduce, I think I did, introed the beef, or that was a banquet. But, we have banquet parts. And so a lot of the time as state officers, we choose what we do. But then there are also moments where hey, we need you to do this as well. Okay, that's fine. And so it's one of those things where a lot of state office is chalked up to do as much as you want. You have to have a speaking part, but it's your choice of whether you want to have, I want to do a flag lowering, and I want to have a Vespers. I want to help lead Vespers, and I want to do this on stage and this. You see what I mean? And so that's kind of like how it is like on the backside of state office when it comes to duties wise. And then there are other things of like, I think I had reached out in January around Christmas break time.
Yeah.
So I
it was right before that crazy storm.
It was right before the crazy storm, and the scheduling just was not in the Lord's favor. He did not want that to happen, which is great because I got to come down anyways. And I've got some things, but kind of one of those things where I wanted to on my Christmas break come visit some local chapters, and especially chapters in my region, and be like, hey, yo, what's up, guys? Let's hang out. I want to see how your chapter works. And so, you just take that first step forward and say, all right, can I fit it into my school schedule? And that's another great thing is duties as state officer, state office is this, school has to be about right here though. You should always have state office. How I looked at it was state office is my number 1. That's where I'm focused, but my school has to be a number 2 that's like that. They're that close. And so that's kind of a little bit of juggling. So that's kind of my duties and how that all kind of worked with state office.
So speaking of that, how did you manage the best about scheduling school and then state office? Was it hard to manage and do all that?
Yes and no. A big suggestion that I give you guys is when you go to college, do not take an 8-week course unless you have to. And I say that from a state officer perspective, but I also say that from a normal student perspective. Only take 8-week long courses if you have to, because those are double the work and lots of things come together and it just makes life a lot harder. I made the mistake of taking 2 8-week courses as a state officer in the same semester on top of other classes, and it just kind of made a little bit of a mess. But as a state officer, we do not take any classes on Tuesday or Thursday. What happens on Tuesdays and Thursdays? That's when cult conference is. That's when the state green hand or this happens, or that, you see what I mean? That's when we do a lot of our FFA events. If you go back and look at the schedule, oh, that's on a Tuesday, or oh, that makes so much sense. That's when we're free. That's when we do our meetings. That's when we do that stuff. And so a lot of the time, juggling state office and school was hard, but you get a hang of it. It's all about time management, and it's all about knowing how you work as a student, but also as a state officer. So, for example, guess what I did when I wanted to memorize a speaking part, but I also had schoolwork to do? I didn't sit there and go, okay, all right, here's my piece of paper that has my speaking part on it. Here's my homework on my laptop. Let me read this. Okay, let me type. Oh, okay, well, let me answer this question. Oh, well, let me... How did that part go? Some of the, you know what I mean? No, it was, what I did was I would go out to my truck and I would record my speaking part over and over. I have on my phone, I don't know if it's 30 minutes exactly, but I'd probably say about a 27-minute long audio recording of a 1-minute long part that I said about 27 times, probably closer to 30, I think, times in that time frame. And I would sit there and walking across campus, in my room studying, doing homework, driving. I cannot tell you guys the amount of times that on that 3-hour drive home from Red Oak to from Stillwater to Red Oak, those 3 hours were probably me listening to one speaking part over and over and saying it. And so you find that balance of, I think Aubrey and them had Aubrey and Grace and a couple of my other teammates. I use them the most because they're really, really good friends of mine. All of my teammates are, but those were the ones I was closest with. You know what I mean? And so it's like they had different ways. They'd take their phones and they'd throw them across the room, and they would leave.
You're prioritizing something that is important to you.
You got to put it ahead of time, and that's like, you know what I mean? A lot of us, when we first started out, like you're told like, oh, as a state officer, you only take 15 hours or less, and it's like you only do classes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Well, now my Monday, Wednesday, Friday is starting from 8 to 4 o'clock worth of classes, and I have an online class. Oh my gosh, I cannot tell you. I had my mom come to college one day. I had my mom come up there one day on a Tuesday. Actually, the Tuesday before National Convention, I had her come up to my college, and I said, all right, I need you to basically pack my bags for National Convention so that I can sit here and do these assignments. Because I was in those 2 8-week courses, and I had other classes, and I said, I need to focus on all of this stuff right now, so that at National Convention, I can be 100% present. And so it's kind of one of those things of finding that, asking for help, getting that advice, but also finding your little way of doing things. And so that's kind of how I juggled it. I found my way along it. And so you just got to time management and prioritize what's important. And so that's kind of how that all worked with it. So
it's kind of cliche to say, but a state officer is like a chapter officer for the state. So it's things that you guys can apply when you are running chapter meetings and when you guys have a super big assignment for Miss Lennox, but then you also have to get ready because we are going to have our big banquet at the end of the year that you need to make sure your part is memorized and make sure that you practice the speaking part for introducing Miss Hickman to come and give like some comments on the school year, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that they do, it's just micro over on our level.
100%. And that's something, like that is, I'll use for an example, find what you prioritize in life the most and look at how you act when you are working towards that. So like, for example, I would use, I with speeches, like I went back and looked, and I went with like state office, or even like with state office, like I was like, all right, with speeches in high school, how did I memorize those? I found how I memorized best, and I added that to how I did for state office. And I'm like, well, how did I prioritize this? I'm like, what are the little things that I do that make it to where I'm successful in that area? That's why I prioritize it. How can I apply that here? So like with schoolwork, I would sit there and I would do schoolwork and be memorizing a part by listening to it, multitasking. But find out how you prioritize things and what you do to be so passionate and put all this work into it, and apply that to other things, and you're going to be really, really successful. I did not mean to just hit that, but so.
You just go to the next one?
Yeah, you're on. Yeah.
Okay. What were some of your goals as vice president?
So some of my goals as the Southeast Area Vice President were I really wanted to represent what the Southeast area meant and was. And so that was something where I wanted to go up there, and I was proud to say, I'm like, hey, I grew up eating catfish and fried okra. That was something we were talking about, earlier, but I'm like, I grew up eating this. I'm like, that's something I'm proud of. And it sounds so crazy, but I wanted to make others see the beauty in my simplicity. And so where I love the simple things in life. I love going to the Easy Mart and getting me some catfish and chicken strips and potato wedges.
I did that a lot at Valiant when I was student teaching.
Yeah. It's like, I love that. And it's like, I love being able to do that. And I said, as a Southeast Area Vice President, I wanted to represent our area in the way of, this is my home and I'm proud of it. And something that I like to always say is, as a Southeast Area Vice President, I wanted to be someone that was just as comfortable sitting there and talking about, oh my gosh, last weekend I was back home and we went and I was bass fishing, and dude, I caught so many, and I sounded like this and I talked like this, and then I'm sitting there across from a stakeholder that's sponsoring our organization, and it's like, have you ever been bass fishing before? And it's like, normally people are like, oh, you have to be prim and proper and talk like this. I'm like, no, like that's not me. Like, I wanted to be real, and I wanted people to see, this is who I am, this is where I'm from, and this is where I came from, and I'm proud of it. So I wanted to represent us well, and I hope that I did. I hope that I brought across that message. But another goal that I had was I wanted to make others feel like, and I've said this before, my driving message was, why did I want to be a state officer, and what were my goals? I wanted to make others feel like they were a state officer. I wanted to make them feel like they were the one that had 29,000 people looking at their face. I wanted them to be like, no, this is the guy right here. That was the whole point, was I'm just a guy that was given an opportunity. You're a guy that deserves that opportunity or deserves to be treated that way. And so
that kind of goes with your guys' goals. That we talk about our goals all the time on this podcast about what we want to do as FFA officers, right? What is your goal?
To get out of my comfort zone and to basically just talk more, because I'm very shy, and I think this whole thing has helped me a lot.
Right. And then everyone's always, we got to get more people involved.
Yeah.
Yep.
What the best way to get more people involved is to show your growth. And that's something that I think a lot of people, their vision is blurred when they look at it like when they look at state office sometimes, because a lot of time, state office isn't about change, it's about growth. And that went into one of my last goals was I wanted to walk in, be elected, and retire the same person, but someone who has grown. It's kind of like, I wanted to go in and I did not want to change into someone that was not the person that got elected. I wanted to leave the person that got elected, just I have grown as that person. I didn't want to change from Titus Montgomery I didn't want to go from the Titus Montgomery that got elected that, was just a simple guy. I wanted to leave as that guy. I wanted to leave as that person. And so,
is it small things like Titus Montgomery that goes bass fishing, eats
It was like, you know, Titus Montgomery, who, you know, something I always held near and dear to my heart was I did not grow up eating steak a lot. And this is going to sound super silly, but I promise there's an analogy to it, okay? So as a state officer, you have these great opportunities to go to these dinners, to go and sit with these great people. And whenever I ate a steak when I was younger, I ate steak well done. I love a well done steak. I love a well done steak because when I was younger, whenever my mama would cook, she did not like her steak to have a lot of pink in the middle. Not that, oh, it's blood, it's all this. No. That's just how she ate it. So if my mama was cooking that, my dad wanted one that was rare. And so he would cook his steak. And so I would always eat what my mama made. And that always brought me back to, oh, this is like mom's cooking. And it's like, okay. And you get looked at and you go, oh, you're just like eating boot leather. And I'm like, no, like I'm okay to chew a couple extra bites. But I'm like, the whole point was that was me. And that reminded me of home. You know, it's the same reason that as a state officer, I always had big red gum in my pocket. I also always had, you know, I don't know if you guys got to go to alumni camp, but at alumni camp we do a session called Real People, and Real People is where they ask us, you know, who is the Titus Montgomery out of the jacket? Well, Titus Montgomery out of the jacket's the same guy that's in the jacket. You want to know what never left my pocket when I was a state officer and still has not left my pocket to this day? It's my turkey calls. I love turkey hunting. That's me. I love turkey hunting. I have a TikTok. I'm not going to plug it. You guys got to go find it if you want to see it. But I have a TikTok where I use my turkey calls and I love it. And so that was something that all through high school and FFA, I always had my calls in my pocket.
I'm pretty sure I follow you.
Yeah, you probably do. You probably do. And
TikTok.
I'm just okay. But that was something that always reminded me of home. But it was kind of one of those things where this is who I am. Judge me for it. Okay, that's fine. But I'm not going to change. I'm going to grow. And so that was kind of, you know, it was those little things, finding the beauty in the simplicity in life. I would rather go to a gas station back home and eat chicken strips and catfish and potato wedges than I would go to some random fancy restaurant, because I'm like, with that, I'm like, this reminds me of home more, and it's just as good in my eyes.
I think FFA's, there's more organizations that allow multiple diverse kind of people to be in it, but I mean, you've got kids that show livestock, you've got kids that do photography, shooting sports. I mean, you've got high, you got low. I mean, this is the organization that kind of puts everyone on an equal playing field.
Anybody can be who they are. Like, you can be who you are in this jacket and outside of this jacket. And I think that's what makes the greatest members. It makes this organization so great. And even as a state officer, I came in and left who I was at the beginning. Just I had grown as a person and not changed. I didn't change who I was. I stayed the same. And so I don't know. I know that's kind of hard to explain, and I kind of explained that a little bit weird, but that's kind of how I always looked at it, was like, at any moment, if you start to feel like you're not, because that was something that was drilled in my head by my ag teachers, was you can be real or you can be fake. Be real. And they would get me. They'd be like, hey, that was a little bit, where's the other Titus? Where's the goofy Titus? You can ask my teammates the amount of times that I got from Aubrey or Grace or Kaysen or a tally mark from one of my teammates, because I'd be sitting there and I'd be cutting up. And it's just like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, I knew when to cut up. I knew when to not cut up. But that's who I am. That's who I am. I like to be funny. I like to have a good time. And at the same time, I can sit there and be making jokes and then 30 seconds later get up there and speak to thousands and act like nothing happened. And so that's how I was. And that's how I wanted to be. And so that's kind of how state office was, and kind of how it, you know what I mean? I didn't want to change. I wanted to grow. And
So you're speaking about your officer team. How would you describe them this last year?
So we had an incredible team dynamic. I loved each and every one of them, but it's like a family. Okay. You know, sometimes in life you get on each other's nerves. And so we had amazing moments. Anytime we were together, it was like the gang is all here. You know, Goodwill Tour was a really great, but also a really hard thing for us, because Goodwill Tour, we are split in half, 4 and 4. And it's like, I'm so used to having all of my teammates with me, rocking and rolling. And now there's a hole left. There's a hole in my heart where I'm like, oh, where's my buddy at? Like, and so each and every one of them was great. And we all had our strengths and our weaknesses. And what was so great is that our strengths complemented each other's weaknesses. And so where I was able to go and do this and do this and do this, I also was real. I'll use for an example, okay? At alumni camp, I was terrible at hotspots. I was so bad on it. The part where we draw names out of the fish bowl and we're like, everyone's like, oh, you know what I mean? All those kind of parts, like where we draw people up and we're like, from the Crowder FFA chapter, Dax, is your last name Johnson, right? Dax Johnson. And you'd come up, and the part where we do the powers, you know, the power of the turtle or the power of the bull rider, I was so bad at it. And I don't know what it was, but I just had like a stage fright. Who was my partner? No greater than Caleb Ames, who he literally was the guy to put up there. He was so great at it. And so where I was weak, he was strong. And so that was a great thing, was a great example of like, he helped me out so much with that. I literally would not touch the mic. I didn't want to touch the mic after the first session. I did terrible the first session of alumni camp. I said, no, do not give me the mic. You're running the mic the whole time, and I will stand in the back and hold the fishbowl.
And it's good to have partners that can carry for you when you are low. So,
and they pick you up when you're down. And that was the great thing, was Caleb encouraged me and helped me. And when it was my time, he said, hey, do you want to take over? And I said, yeah, give it to me. I got this. And it was like, you know, they help build our confidence. And so
you see the good example of someone doing it correctly. Yeah. You can emulate that now. You've seen it over and over.
And so that was the thing, was I learned from him. And I went, all right, now I can do this. I know I can do it. And so that was what was great about my team, was we complemented each other's strengths and weaknesses. And so it was just, we were a family. We had little moments where we wanted to throw each other out of the van, but you know, at the same time, it's great. So that was kind of how my officer team was.
How can we make our local chapter teams more like the state officer teams?
So you guys have a great opportunity where a lot of you know each other very well. You know, I went in my state officer team and I didn't know some of my teammates very well. And by the end of it, we're brothers and sisters. And it's like, with your chapter officer team, I think a lot of the time people look and they go, oh, well, we're a chapter officer team. We're different from state office. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're still an officer team. What does that mean? Go hang out. You know, how far is Eufaula from here?
20 minutes.
Okay. I would say Eufaula, but like, where's the closest Sonic? Would that be Eufaula?
Eufaula or McAllister.
Or McAllister. Okay. Hey, let me, I don't know, we'll use you for an example. You know, hey, Dax, Timmy, some of your other officer team, like, hey, let's hop in the vehicle. Let's go on a Sonic run. Like, become a family. Like, yes, you go to school. Yes, you guys are all involved in different things outside of this. Yes, you guys have you have your own teammates and your own little friend groups. But you guys are a team. But what makes a team so great is that team becomes a family. Like, that's what's so, like, I think people forget a lot of times, is especially with, like, a lot of time with the state officer team, people are like, oh, well, you guys are so close. Well, the reason we're so close is because we put ourselves in that situation, you know? You guys are serving for a year just as much as we are. You guys are hosting chapter meetings. You guys are, hey, we're putting together a team for this. Or, hey, let's go, hey, make sure that this person, or, hey, we have banquet that we're prepping for. Or, how many people want to go to a lump? You see what I mean? It's like, you guys are a team. You need to become a family. You become really good friends and be buddies. And that's kind of hard to do in high school sometimes, but my biggest piece of advice is become a family. Become close with one another, because that makes your time as leaders so much better and so much more rewarding. Anybody can go and be a chapter officer and say, I was a chapter officer, it was a good time. No, go say I was a chapter officer and it changed my life, because that's what you're doing it for, right? That's why you ran for chapter office, right? Was to change other lives and change your life. Then that's what you need to do, is pursue that. So, I don't know. That's kind of how I am. Is like, but what about you guys? Like, do you guys, I don't know, do you guys kind of feel that way? Like wanting to get closer, wanting to become, kind of a family almost?
Yeah, I feel like we only got to spend. So I was elected as Sentinel in the last half of the year last year, and I feel like we got pretty close. But just in school, we didn't do anything outside of school. We didn't see each other outside of school, but we just hung out in school and during when we were together in the ag room for meetings. But I feel like we could go out and have some fun, and that could help too with getting along and getting more stuff done during meetings.
Yeah. It's not. I think that one of the greatest universal examples of how to get close with someone is shooting them a text and say, hey, let's go grab something to drink, or let's go grab a bite to eat, and let's go drive around and just hang out. It's not a whole, hey, we're going to schedule this, we're going to go bowling, but before we go bowling, we're going to go eat here, and then maybe if we have time after, we're going to go watch a movie. No, like, that's awesome, and those are great times, but some of the greatest friendships are formed in those simple moments of, let's go to the Eat Smart, let's grab us a soda pop, let's get us a little snack, let's hop in the truck, hey, let's go drive the back roads. See what I mean? And let's just chat. Let's have a good time. So, but what about you guys? Do y'all kind of feel that way, or?
Yeah, I got elected last semester, and I kind of got close with all of the officers, and then it kind of just went everywhere. And then I got elected again, and I think this year, we can get really close. Just the chapter meetings, the banquet last year, I think it was really into it. And at state convention, it felt normal. It just felt...
We get an Airbnb every year for state convention. So that's a family gathering kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%.
I think their goal this year is to be a family.
Yeah.
That's what we've talked about a couple different podcasts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what makes it so great is, I'm going to use, for an example, I'm going to use, let's say you guys have a common goal. Let's say that you guys want to be a national 3-star chapter. Okay, let's say that is a goal, or a superior chapter, or something like that. Or you guys as a chapter want to grow membership. Do y'all have 8th grade out here? No, freshmen? Okay, and is it a elective class, I guess, they have to choose, or do y'all require it?
It's really hard to say because it's intro to ag.
Okay.
But
it's an elective.
Yeah, they say it's an elective.
As an 8th grader in Red Oak, we have to take ag. After that, we don't have to. But as an 8th grader, we have to. And so with that, you guys have a great opportunity where we want to build membership. We want our ag chapter so big that we need a new building. You know what I mean? We need this. We have to have this. We are busting at the seams. And so a great way to do that is, if you guys look like you're just cutting up having a good time, that invites people so much more than, hey, here's a big extravagant, well, Dax, you didn't do your part right. Or, man, okay, Timmy, all right, come on, we got to know, but you see what I mean? It's more of hey, Dax, you've got your part right, because we came and we hung out last night and we did some prep work. We practiced our parts together. We went to Sonic, got us something to drink, and we prepped our parts together. And so it's kind of find those moments where you can force, not force, but make that connection. And when you make that connection, you guys look like a family, more people are going to want to be involved in that. Because where do you have the most fun? When you're a family, not when you're a team. And so that's what's great. It's if you're just a team in that surface level, why are we doing it? We need to go below the roots. When you guys talk about spilling the feed, there's the feed bucket, there's the bucket, okay? That's what you guys are as a team. And you guys can choose whether to fill that bucket with feed or leave it there and not do anything with it. And as officers, as teammates, you guys need to fill that. You need to fill that with those moments, those memories, that drive that you have. And so that's kind of how I look at it, is like, and I hope that you guys kind of look at that too, is become closer, become a family. And that's what's going to drive membership. That's what people are going to want to be a part of. And so that's kind of how I look at it, you know.
What are you up to now? Like school and your podcast?
So I am currently attending Oklahoma State University, of course, you know, go Pokes. I love OSU. I'll be a sophomore this coming fall. So I'm currently pursuing a dual degree in plant and soil sciences and agricultural leadership. And so that's kind of the broad spectrum. Instead of, you know, dual majoring, I'm dual degree. So I'm going to get a degree in both of those. And so both of those I can have a minor in. And so we're working on adding a minor or two with some other things. But my main kind of goal is I want to pursue a master's, and I want to pursue a PhD in plant and soil sciences. I'm a big crop nerd. So as I mentioned earlier, you know, big guy when it comes to corn. I just love it. I love that kind of stuff. I love to research. I'm a very inquisitive guy. I like to ask a question, and if someone can't give me the answer, you best believe I'm going to go find the answer or create the answer. And so that's kind of how I am as a person. And so that's why I love, like, you know, that's kind of what I'm studying. My kind of future plans, I've got a lot of things I want to do. But right now, I kind of just want to pursue my PhD, and I want to go back and I want to be a professor. I think it'd be awesome to be like a plant and soil science professor at OSU or at K-State or University of Arkansas, somewhere like that, where I can come back and influence change in others' lives, but then also continue to influence change in the world. And so, but I also, you know, I'm getting the ag leadership degree. I want to work in facilitation. I would love to continue to have that kind of tie in FFA and continue to be able to help out. And, you know, one day I want to be called and say, hey, come facilitate Lead 360. One day I want to be called and say, hey, come do a workshop at State Convention. You know what I mean? That's kind of something that I love to do, and that's something I want to continue to be involved in. So that's kind of where I am, like with what I'm studying, and then kind of what I do. You know, I kind of just enjoy life. I love to run around and have a good time with my friends, and you know, I'm a part of the crops team at OSU, so I'm a collegiate crops judger. So I'll be really focusing on that this next fall, and love to compete. And so that's kind of what I do. And then kind of on the subject, I guess, of the podcast. That's something I get asked a lot. You know, my goal, I had several goals with the podcast was, you know, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that. But one of the goals was I wanted at least 50 episodes before I took a break and stepped away. And so I got to episode 50, and I used that as my opportunity. I'm just going to say what I want to say. And I did it, and I kind of capped it out, and I used that as my kind of outro. Because if you guys look at the time frame, I finished that episode on the very last day of 2023. It uploaded about 20 minutes before January 1st of 2024. And I needed that closure in my life so that I could move on to my next goal. And that was running for state office. And so if you look, there hasn't been an episode of Brag on Ag since December 31st of 2023. The reason being is that I wanted to shift my focus to state office and pursue that goal of mine. And I wanted to enjoy, and not that I wouldn't been able to enjoy it with Brag on Ag, but all of my power was going to go into that. And so I have some plans for Brag on Ag. People that follow me saw I made a 3-year anniversary post the other day. And it was just a picture of a microphone, and it said like coming soon or 3 years in the making or something like that. I've got some big plans for the podcast. It is coming back in a different format, a different kind of way it's set up, but it is coming back. I don't have a definite date yet, but with the podcast, it will be back. I have some other projects that I've been working on. Gonna start a YouTube channel. That's just going to be, you know, ag-related stuff. Just kind of, I want to revamp a lot of the ag comm world. I think that there's a lot of things that can be added that can really benefit. And it's all about advocating for agriculture. You know, what do you do if you're an advocate? That means you love something so much that you want to share it with the world. And so you're going to do whatever it takes to get the world to see your perspective and to love it. And so If you're an advocate, then you're going to be advocating for agriculture. And so kind of a play on the letters there, but it's kind of something that I love to do. So I've got some things set up, some really cool ideas, but just kind of right now we're just kind of taking it slow. And yeah, so that's kind of what I've been up to, kind of recapping my year of state office, because you get time to reflect as a state officer, but you really don't, you know? And so it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to reflect and take it all in. And so that's kind of what I've been up to and what I'm studying and kind of pursuing in life, I guess.
What was something from FFA that helped you prepare for your next chapter in your life?
So I think that's something that, that's so great is, we have leadership development events, but we also have career development events. And career development events are there to quite literally help prep you for your future career. And something that I did as a career development event was I did the agronomy CDE. So that was crops judging. And so that was something that my passion for agronomy, I was able to take my passion for what I had and put it into effect and be able to compete, was able to be awarded through it, was able to see success and be successful. And it helped prep me for my next stages of life. And it helped grow that passion of mine. And so that would be something. I would also have to say the development of my work ethic. Because in FFA, anybody can go out there and do something. But if you want to be successful, you got to put in those extra hours. I'll use for an example, I remember texting my friends. We had planned to go to the movies one night. And I remember I texted my friends and said, hey, it may be a little iffy. I said, but I've got an application due that day. And it's very important. And I've got to get it done. And I'm going to take to the last minute to get it done. And it took me a lot longer than I expected to finalize some stuff. And I ended up working until about 10 o'clock that night in the Ag building on that application. Guess where my buddies went? They went to the movies. And I told them to. I said, hey, go ahead and go without me. I'm like, I got to do this. And so it takes those extra hours. But my work ethic and developing those passions that I have for agriculture and for the, you know what I mean? Heck, public speaking. I'm like, I would never have come on this podcast years ago if I had not joined FFA. You could not catch me speaking in front of people. And my dad's a pastor. It's basically my job to talk to people as well. And so I'm like,
can you guys relate?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it brings you out of its comfort zone, doesn't it? And ain't that one of your goals?
Yes.
Yeah, to bring you out of your comfort zone. And so now you're like, talking to people's not that bad. I'm like, I didn't die, so I can do it. You know what I mean? So, but that's kind of what some things that really helped guide me for the rest of my life and how FFA's kind of built me and positively impacted me. So, yeah.
How do you hope FFA will impact other people?
We're gonna touch on that word impact. So alumni camp, our camp theme was impact. And I hope that FFA impacts people. I hope that FFA leaves an impact on others in a positive manner. We are not here. This is not a organization that you only select people get to be a part of. FFA is for everyone. FFA, it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter if I did not show livestock in high school. I stopped freshman year. Guess what? Everyone else on my team showed some sort of livestock. They did. But I was a state officer. Some of my teammates did not compete in speech contests until about their senior year. That didn't matter. They were still a state officer. It was like we all had these different experiences. We had different passions, different things that we were passionate about. And yet we walked away having learned and been loved in the organization. And that's the same thing with y'all. I don't know. Let's say, I don't know what I did not grow up with a traditional ag background. I was still in ag. It isn't all sows, cows, and plows. And that's a funny phrase to say, and some people don't like it and some people do, but that's the truth, is it's for everyone. And I hope that FFA leaves a positive impact on others and that they walk away and go, wow, yeah, I was in FFA. I hope that in 20 years, let's say one of you is we're gonna use this for an example, okay? Let's say you're an ag teacher. Let's say you're an ag teacher, you're a banker, and you raise pigs for a living and you do livestock judging on the side. I hope that one day you guys have a local banquet or a local show, and you're helping running the show. You call him to come be the judge, and he's not even involved in FFA as much. He's just focused on the livestock industry, and we've got a banker over here that's going to help sponsor those little plaques and ribbons that the kiddos are going to get. That right there is what it's all about. Is it leaves a positive impact, and that's what I hope it does for everyone, is that they were impacted positively, so now they're going to give back. And that's one thing that I think so many people look at is like, oh man, if I'm not an ag teacher, then I can't positively impact FFA. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can still be involved.
We can use the help.
Yeah, and I saw it firsthand with mine. Like, I saw it firsthand with my ag teachers. Like, the greatest help comes from those that have had that experience. And that's what I hope, is that this leaves an organization. You come into it and you grow and you leave as a better leader and a better person. And it impacts you and changes your life. And so, I don't know. That's what I hope FFA does for others, as it's done for me. And so, but yeah.
Do you have any advice for students who want to join FFA?
Do it. If it's an option for an elective, do it.
Abby always says YOLO.
Yeah, YOLO.
Yeah.
Literally YOLO. What's it going to do? How's it going to hurt you? Guess what you get to do? You get to go hang out in a class with a bunch of cool cats. You guys get to hang out, do stuff. You get to learn. And if at the end of the day you don't want to be a part of FFA, okay, don't. It's as simple. It is, like you say, it's YOLO. You only live once. Try it. But I ask that if you do try it, give it your all. Do it. Give it your all. Because the more you put in, the more you're going to get out. What is the phrase? Yoga whippy. You know, that's the one we always hear. Bill Cortez, you know what I'm talking about at Lead 360?
I do not.
Okay, so Bill Cortez is a guy that you guys may have seen him, but he's the guy that always comes to Lead 360, or he comes to alumni camp. He's always the kickoff speaker. You guys ever had a shark buddy before? You know what I'm talking about? No?
No.
Okay, you'll get to learn one day. But Yoga Whippy, the phrase stands for you only get out what you put in.
I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah,
I know what
you
you're talking
only
about.
get out what you put in. So for those that want to join FFA or are thinking about taking an ag class, do it. You only get out what you put in. Put your full effort in, and I promise you're going to want to take another class with FFA. You're going to want to join. You're going to want to become active. I think that's something that you guys can take with your officer team, is really drive that home, is say, look, guys, you are in this class for a reason. You're coming to this chapter meeting for a reason. You only get out what you get in, or you put in. So let's do it. Put your all. Put your best foot forward. And at the end of the day, be happy that you did. And so that's what I hope that they gain. And you guys, like I said, do it. You won't. I triple dog dare you to join ag. I'm daring you. Do it. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Do you have any more feed to spill for our listeners?
More feed the spill. Wow, I think I've said more times than I have in the whole year as a state officer. I'm kidding. I say that a lot. You know what? Hey, enjoy it. Enjoy the organization. Enjoy the FFA. Listeners, if you're listening to this, if you can, go leave a comment. Leave a nice comment. Or a constructive criticism comment. We like those, but no hate comments. But you know what I mean? Like, just, like I said earlier, be real. Don't be fake. Don't wear a mask. Rip the veil off. And you only get out what you put in. So give it your all. That's all I got to say, I think. So enough said. But, so yeah.
Well, thank you, Titus, for joining our podcast today.
Of course. Thank you guys.
And thank you for watching Spilling the Feed. That is all.